we'll get started. Glad you had a good time. Have you ever known a genius? I mean, a real genius. A genius.
Well, I had a couple of my classes.
Yeah, where they're real prodigies,
Yeah,
right? What was that like? To be in their presence?
well, it's uncomfortable.
Was it?
Well, you know,
What made it uncomfortable?
well, they're so smart, you know, they knew everything.
Yeah.
And I had 3 of them in my classes in high school. The same 3, you know,
In the same class?
pretty much.
Oh
well,
my
you know,
God.
the honor classes, you know,
Really?
yeah. And, you know, one of them couldn't stand failing or getting a low grade. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
couldn't handle it.
yeah.
So,
I had one of those at SUNY New Paltz. He wasn't a genius. He thought he was. But he came up to me and he said, you know, I have a 4.0 grade point average until I took your class. I said, yeah, you don't have one anymore. He took it hard.
I don't know how you're defining a genius.
Well,
What is a genius? I mean, I don't know if I know any or knew any or not.
anybody want to take a stab at it? I have some ideas where they have voluminous knowledge and they can access that knowledge very quickly, that they can synthesize knowledge, that they can go from history to physics to whatever, you know, without any hesitation. It's all, they have access to all of it at any time.
And they remember.
They have incredible memories. Yeah.
Is that called the positronic brain?
Okay. If you're speaking in tongues, you're right in, it is Pentecost.
I think I know, I have a friend currently that.
That's like that.
That, yes,
Yeah.
he knows a lot about everything.
Yeah, and then can they make the leap into something that's never been thought of before? You know,
Not necessarily.
no.
I don't know.
I would say that's kind of, you know, knowing knowledge is kind of one thing. Why am I doing this? I just think it's kind of fun. There's a story there. You know, it's one thing to know everything and to be able to synthesize anything, but can you actually make the leap into new knowledge and have it verified? That's a genius, I would say. You got to have those components to really. I've known 3 or 4.
I think I knew one in college who probably could, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He seemed to be just top notch at everything.
Yeah. And can they leap? And that's the key.
But
That's
I
the key for me.
don't really know
Yeah.
what his
A lot of times they commit
exact-
suicide. I know a few that
He
could,
left or not.
that killed themselves.
Do you think they're ahead of their times as well?
Yeah, yeah, and they're lonely. They're usually isolated, and a little bit lonely, and they're socially
A
awkward.
little, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. They're
Yeah.
kind of on their own. a lot.
Right, you want to kill them, you don't have to because they'll kill themselves eventually. So that kind of thing. That's horrible to say that.
Yes.
I won the Pastoral Care Prize too, many years ago. $1,500 cash. Yeah, I did, in seminary. You don't believe it, do you?
What does that award mean?
What it means is, this is a person, our award winner is a person of great empathy and care.
I knew one
So
person
when-
with photographic memory.
Yeah, I know,
Did
none of
you-
those.
did-
I do not have, no, I've got a Swiss cheese brain. But Bill Scudder, Dr. Scudder, was in his 20s. When I first met him, he was a professor at Western Seminary. Got his doctorate at Oxford. And I don't know if he's killed himself yet, but he's probably, yes, I know. But, I mean, a champion alcoholic, which is tough when you're teaching in a seminary. But one of my absolute favorite professors. Hey, Maureen. Good morning. He would come, Wild Bill Scudder, and the Scudder family was a very famous family in the Reformed Church. He would roll into class with the Hebraica Stuttgartensia version of the Old Testament. It's only in Hebrew, right? He would come cruising, and he had this incredible voice, and he became the Old Testament, and he would go through, no notes, he's got no notes, he's cruising through there. He wasn't even a Hebrew professor. He got his PhD in Greek, one of those kind of guys. So I took a few classes from him, and then we became friends too. We knew each other afterwards. I lost track of him, or he's lost where I was. Anyway, I would knock on this door, because I wanted to get my paper back and see what he thought about it. And you knock on the door, come in. Well, you can't, because you can't open the door. So he said, just put your shoulder into it. He's a brand new professor. Where's all this stuff coming from? Just put your shoulder into it. So you do. You just bang on it. And this is an important little seminary. You can't act like this. A little bit more. And when you burst into his office, and he said, oh, Tom, so glad to see you. And it's just crap everywhere, piles of it. And he said, well, I really need to start this conversation with an apology because I can't find your paper. He had it all in his head. So he went line by line by line by line. I said, well, when you find it, why don't you just put it in my box?
Sounds like he had a photographic.
I would call him a genius, and he came up with this crazy stuff, and I got to know him pretty well, actually, over the years. And we had a couple there. There was another one in Amsterdam, Steve Richardson, definitely a genius. I worked with Alan Kida at Pine Rest, definitely a genius. Yeah, these characters, these creatures, they're not, I wouldn't say particularly human. They've got some human attributes, but they're more creatures than they're humans. Fun to be with. Maybe 4 or 5, maybe, in my lifetime. So, well, it's nice to see you. Now, we're going to take a look at the Joseph cycle. We're going to be together for 2 more Tuesdays. This is one. Next week is the last one. I mean it. Because I'm going to be on vacation, I think. Anyway, this is the Joseph cycle. What do we know about the Joseph of the Old Testament? Anything. What do you know? Anything? Anything. What do you know?
His father favored him.
His father favored him. Okay? We've seen that before. Favoritism. Is he the eldest?
He's the youngest.
Doggone it, that happens again?
And he wore a coat of many, his mother or somebody made him a coat
Oy vey.
of many colors.
Oh, come on. Why would you do that?
A little more Godspell to
Yeah, why would you do that?
Because he was the favorite.
He's the favorite. Did you have a favorite in your family, or did you know a favorite?
Do favorites usually become narcissists?
Yes. Can a narcissist, another good question is, can a narcissist move the kingdom of God along? That's another good question. The only thing that will ever save a narcissist is if they give themselves over to something larger than themselves. That's the only thing that will save a narcissist, that they serve something larger. If you look at King David, same thing. St. Paul, same thing. There are some real narcissists in the Bible that have given themselves over to a cause greater than themselves. If you can't do that, there's no helping you. You're kind of the walking damned. On that cheerful note, they're creatures as well, but creatures of darkness, I would say, and lost. And anyway, I know too much about this. What else do we know about Joseph?
His brothers hated him.
His brothers hated him. Everything's out of whack. I mean, really, when you get used to this sort of rhythm in the Bible, like, of course, it's got to be the eldest son that takes over the story, right? Takes over the family, takes over the story. Hey, Cindy, you know, you got to get used to that. I mean, hey, Nancy, in our world, we don't have that as entrenched, that idea. There's a little more flexibility, wouldn't you say, in our culture, where it's not the firstborn that absolutely should get and will get the lion's share of the family estate, and that they are expected to move the culture of the family forward and all that kind of stuff. But we don't. I mean, it's a little bit like that, maybe, but is it?
I think in the, maybe the upper class families, that's more important to them,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
you know, to preserve the family wealth, and, you know, they have to have some person to succeed the patriarch.
Sure. Okay. Okay. I mean, you know, it does make a certain amount of sense. But the Bible is messing with us, and I hope I can leave you with this a little bit. Yes, there are themes, cultural themes, that are maintained in the Bible, but the Bible, starting early, you've got questionable activities by God when compared with the culture that's understood. So when God leaves with Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, you know, your average bare Jewish person is going to go, oh, God doesn't do that. God should go, and I don't want to see you again. This God leaves his own garden to go trampsing around with these two idiots, right? Out of a hope and loyalty, like, what is motivating this God? And you kind of want to forget it, but the Bible won't let you forget it because we're going to keep doing it. And another one is Jacob and Esau, right? It's just wrong. The story is wrong. And when a Jewish reader is reading that story, written long ago, their flag's going to go up. This is not how it needs to go. We're taught to be righteous. We're taught to stay in line. We are taught to be culturally appropriate. And this story, and many others, challenges all that. Why is it doing that? Why can't we just make Judaism great again? Why these innovation? Is God a genius?
Maybe he wants us to think.
And what about? What's the challenge?
Well, the challenge is to the norm.
Challenge the norm.
Maybe he wants to show who's in control.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're gonna pigeonhole you, God, because we know who you are, and God at so many turns says, "You don't know me. You don't know me." One of the names of God out of Yahweh we've talked about before. None of your business. Can you live with that?
He's teaching us humanity. We're not all either all good or all bad. You know, maybe it's a sort of showing that these people who aren't necessarily the best can become.
Incredible.
They change.
They change.
Yeah, that we're not all, I mean, we're all human, so we're not always on the same
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
And some of us get better.
I mean,
some of us get
Jacob
worse.
even has his name changed. I mean, is that unsettling? I think most religions, as I see them, do not like dynamism. They do not like synergy. They like this, right? And I think maybe we do too. I mean, how much variation of your life can you withstand? It's a good question. It's a fair question. So when we go through these transitions in our lives, it's pretty upsetting. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's a graduation from college, whether it's a retirement, whether it's whatever. Those are hard, I think, difficult transitions on people. I mean, how many of us say, gee, I can't wait to have a little more chaos in my life? I mean, I do, but, but I'm odd. I think most of us want continuity. We want rhythm. We want things to be reliable. And doggone it, we want God to be reliable too. Don't you think?
Well, it makes life easier.
Yeah, it
You
does.
don't always want to have the most difficult way to go.
Right. Or we're in difficult times and we don't want it easier. We do that too, right? No, I want it difficult. Give it to me. That's my comfort zone, is to have chaos. Not chaos, but I want to be able to count on things being horrendously difficult. And if you challenge me to do something easier, like there's a path over here, I won't like it. So we've got this guy, right? I mean, it resonates a little bit, right? It does with me too. Sure, well, it's human. Right? It's human. So we've got this God in the Old Testament, obviously, especially in the New Testament, who's got this like a chaoticizing spirit. There's a theologian that talked that way. There's a chaoticizing spirit. When you think you got it solidified and hardened, God comes in and says, oh yeah? We like Joseph. Right? You got to be kidding. This kid is just a royal pain. Yeah, hey gang, pass the Twix. Anybody got the milk? I had this fabulous dream last night. All of you came in front of me. And, I mean, you'll love this. You all knelt down to me. You too, Mom and Dad. You did too. Yeah, it was just the best dream ever. I mean, can you hear the growl? We're going to kill this person. You see what I mean? So that's sort of, and then I just encourage you to go, when you read the Bible, there's this vein of surprise, and God basically in word and deed saying, oh yeah? You think that? Oh yeah? You get what you deserve? We all do, right? No, you don't. No, you don't. You're going to get what you need. Oh yeah? You're going to get what you need. There's all these surprises that push us and pull us in ways that can be life-changing, but not easy, I would say. Transformation. Metanoia, you know that word? It means repent. Metanoia, it's a Greek word. And it just means change your mind, basically. Change your direction, change your mind. Oh, yeah, that's kind of hard to do. It sounds easy, it's hard to do. Forgiveness, all it means is let it go. I still want to strangle people from high school. Hard to let go. I'll let go when they stop breathing. It's simple stuff, but as I've said, it's, these are words that are that big, but they go down 27 miles. So, okay, how about if I wanted to ask you another question. Of what you know about Joseph in the Old Testament, what do you know about Joseph in the New Testament? Are they similar? In what ways might they be similar?
One is more self-sacrificing and the other one...
That's a difference. That's a big difference.
And the other one is basically self-absorbed and...
Yeah. Very much so. Another difference is Joseph hardly gets any ink, any print. And in New Testament. In the Old Testament, we start at, 37, something like that? Yeah. It is, the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis is one of, it might be the long, I don't think maybe David's is longer, but it's definitely by far the longest story in the book of Genesis. 13 chapters. Big. It's a big, big story. So print-wise, yeah, that's the difference. What, do they have anything in common, those two? Because the New Testament, on purpose, makes sure you're looking at Joseph and Mary. Joseph, we want you to be thinking also of this Joseph way back when. They do that on purpose. So do they have anything in common, the two Josephs?
I think the younger one, the one in the Old Testament, he's forced to change. He makes a transformation. Forget exactly what it, after the incident in the well, and he goes through several different episodes.
Yeah, he saves his family. It saves the story of God. Right? Here's some similarities. They're both dreamers. Both Josephs are dreamers, and they are moved by dreams, and they're good at it. Right? They have clear dreams, and they act on them. When was the last time you acted on a dream? Ever acted on a dream? Have you? Yeah. I'll share mine. I've acted on one when I was in high school. I learned how to parallel ski in a dream. And the next morning I went out and did it. I couldn't figure out the shifting of weight in the... my friends were great skiers. I was always left behind. I said, I got to fix this. So I dreamt about it and never went back. Poof. Anybody want to share?
Sometimes if I'm working out a project, I'll have a dream about what I want it to look like.
And you, the next morning, off you go? Okay. Albert Einstein, he wasn't a genius, but he was pretty smart. No, he was a genius. E equals mc squared. You know, that I think he was 23 years old in a dream. He got it in a dream. Yeah, that when he woke up in the morning, he wrote it down, he had it right. Are our dreams in any way, shape, or form connected to God? It's a good question, isn't it? Are they connected to God? Well, I would say, you know, I'm from Western Michigan, so we don't like this kind of stuff. But in the Bible, dreams do have a real function. And with Joseph, definitely. I mean, his biggest moves in his life come from dreams in the Old Testament. The Old Testament, or the book of Genesis, did not need to write that down to keep the story. They put those dreams in there on purpose. And I'm not saying that they didn't happen, but they could have excised those dreams and the story would have remained the same. But they, on purpose, punctuate these transitions with dreams. And they do the same thing with Joseph of the New Testament, Mary's Joseph. They put those things in on purpose to get us to thinking what? Why would they do that?
That God was directing them.
That God may be involved in our unconscious moments. When we're awake, we are straining things based on what we believe, what we know, our own prejudices, our points of view, our worldview. We're, when we're awake, our peccadillos. Love that word. We have this screen in front of us when we're awake to kind of keep us sane, but at night the screen comes down when we're sleeping. when REM sleep especially. And so all sorts of stuff is going to come at us because the screen is down.
Sometimes when you're least thinking about it or trying to think about it, all of a sudden something will come up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I mean,
I call it an angel, but
yeah.
maybe it is God.
Well, I don't know. It could be my mother, but although recipes maybe. But yeah. When it comes down, and then you have to kind of evaluate it when you wake up. Is this something I should pay attention to? Ruth?
I guess it's Revelation that says, in the last days, which one is it, the old men or the young men shall dream dreams?
The old men.
And I think you're talking prophetic.
Yeah. Well, aren't they? Can't they be our dreams? Can't they be prophetic?
I think so.
Like warning dreams. Don't do this. I love those. But you better do this. Look out for that. Go over here. That kind of thing. If you're in tune with it, and I don't know if it's 100% people that really bank on their dreams. I don't know.
Do you ever feel like your dreams are projected from something that, I had one last night, I guess it was a dream, but I was kind of feeling like I was trying to wake up, but my back was hurting, and I'm thinking, that's odd, something on my back, and I woke up. And I think what it was because my granddaughter Lindsay had gotten, after she had the heart surgery, she had to have this drain put in her lung. So she was in a lot of pain with that. And I think I was feeling something from her last night. I really, when I woke up, because my back's fine today, but I've had that happen before, that I feel something else is going on with somebody I love or something. And I'll feel that sensation,
Yeah, it's sympathetic,
But I
right?
don't think I've had a vision of the future.
Yeah.
But my mother-in-law did a lot.
Yeah,
Len's mother
yeah.
was. She really, she knew something was going to happen to Lenny's brother before
Yeah,
he
she
had
had a
his accident.
premonition
Went
of-
through the, yes.
Yeah, sure.
And
Well,
she wasn't surprised.
No.
She found out that he had had this horrible
yeah,
accident.
yeah.
He's going through a tube.
It's pretty common.
But she was very big on dreaming.
Well, I told you, I became a minister because of all this. I mean, that was the first.
You were dreaming?
No, somebody else was.
Oh,
Somebody called the house and said, "Get over here." It was Maggie Hopkins. Yeah, and Mary Chancellor. The two of them were praying in the Spirit. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, why? Just get over here." And they lived around the corner. So they lived in deepest, darkest Grand Rapids. And they were both members of our church. And, I knock on the door, "Just get in here." And so okay. I'm going to be a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. At that moment, when I opened the door, I became something else. And we've been in the Spirit, and you're going to be a minister. I said, "No, I'm not. I'm going to be a clinical psychologist." "Oh, you shut up in the name of Jesus." And so on. You can only imagine the interchange. It's not really part of it. I said, "I really don't even know what a person like that does." "Well, you're going to learn." And here we go. And so we want you to pray now, which I'm still not big on. Public, it's hard for me to do this. And why don't you pray? And so I prayed this fabulous, idiotic prayer, "Lord, please leave me alone," that kind of prayer. And Mary Chancellor goes down like a tree. Out. She's out. "All right, it's lunchtime," I said to myself, and nice visiting with you. And, she came to, and Yeah, that was the
That was a
beginning of it.
prophecy.
That was the beginning of it, yeah. I never would have thought that was the case, but that's what happened to me. A dream, a vision. You know, you got to take that. Yeah. I've never been that kind of person, but trying to be more open to it. Because I think the scriptures clearly are all the way through are saying, listen, you may not be able to listen to me when you're awake, but I'll get you later. When you're sleeping. Right? When the filter's down. So yeah. Is there even a God? I mean, so many people are challenged by that question. And can this God be, can there be any interaction with God? What kind of interaction are we talking about? I can't tell you how many prayers I've started. I know you hate me, but I'm back. Just say it. Does it matter? You'll have to decide that on your own. Okay, let's take a look at 37. Shall we do that? And keep in mind this other New Testament Joseph and Mary. Well, they both have Egypt as an important component as well. I've got to remember that. They're both dreamers. They both have Egypt in their stories. That plays a very important part. And the third thing is, without them, the story of God ends. Hear that part? Without either Joseph acting on their dream, the story of God ends. There are several places in the Bible like that, but the New Testament story of Joseph, on purpose, makes those bridges. Like, get it? Get it? The Bible will do that. You get what I'm talking about? That kind of thing. It's great, folks. Okay. 37, is it for someone want to read 1 through 4? We'll just play a little bit.
Joseph dreams of greatness. Jacob settled in the land where his father had lived as an alien, the land of Canaan. This is the story of the family of Jacob. Joseph, between 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. He was a helper to the sons of Balak and Zilpah, his father's wife. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he had made him a long robe with sleeves. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him.
Okay, thank you. So what do we know right out of the gate? What do we know anything about his character?
He was his father's favorite.
He's his father's favorite. He's a tattletale.
Mm-hmm.
Anything? What makes for a tattletale? Power. It's Machiavellian, right? Yeah. You want to cut somebody to ribbons, and that will elevate you to do so. Fun to do. Yeah, not a great person. And then talk to me again about what makes him. What makes a person like that? How could he become a favorite?
How can you become what?
How could Joseph become a favorite anyway?
He was an unexpected baby.
Unexpected baby. He was our miracle child. Yeah.
Maybe they thought he was God-given, especially God-given.
Right. He's got that aura. Anybody got a silver spoon we could give him? That kind of thing. Yeah. I had 3 brothers. I was number 3 in the depth chart. I think I told you that before. and I was happy to be there. 3 out of 4, darn, that's a good spot. You're in the rocker. Your mother and father call you Tim from time to time, which I kind of enjoyed. Tim, get over here. Just saying, you named me Tom. Okay? Got that? Got that? I visited my mother at Steckety's. I surprised her. I was in college, I think, or something. And went to Muskegon, drove to Muskegon. There she is at Steckety's. She's in Missy Sportswear, and I'm walking up to her, and she's got a big smile on her face with her bouffant. She's thrilled to see me. She goes, "Hi, I'm Dottie. Welcome to Missy Sportswear." I said, "Hi, Dottie. I'm your son." "Oh," she goes. We don't have enough reason to be at Missy Sportswear, but you know. Oh my God, how much fun can you have in all that? All right, so that's the setup. That's all they want us to know. Isn't that interesting? If you started your own story, how would you begin? When would you begin it? Would you begin it with your grandparents, your great-grandparents? When do you start your story? When does it really begin? Is a good question. When did your story really begin? It's a literary question, a biographical question. But when did it really begin? With FDR, when did it really begin? Really? Polio. Polio, gotta be. Right? I mean, you can look at historical figures and say, when did that life? I mean, we know he was living prior to polio. We know that, but when did it really happen? And which then cast such a large shadow over his entire life, or moved him. Well, they've made a choice here, and they will with Jesus too, and other characters in the Bible. The Gospel of Mark, they're going to say the writer of the Gospel of Mark starts Jesus' life at his baptism. I mean, we all know he was alive before his baptism, but Mark is saying, no, really, it starts there. You got to start the Jordan River with John the Baptist to really understand the core of this story, and the momentum of the story happens there. So with Joseph, you're going to say, look, he was 17 years old. That's what mine said. Is that what you said? Joseph, he's 17 years old. Okay, so he's 17-year-old. We know he was alive before this moment, right? We're not going to get one single bit of information, but you got to know him from 17 on, because that's really when his narrative, his story really takes off. Got it? And then there's always kind of, the Bible's always kind of messing with us, the readers, or the hearers, and saying, when did you get started? It'll do that if you stay quiet enough. You can almost hear it saying, and what about you? When did you get started? Is it with your great-grandparents? Is it with your parents? Was it when you first went to a Bible study when you were 14? Is that when it started? Did it start when Maggie and Mary called you over so nicely to their house? When did it really start for you? When did the story really start? Or is it yet to be begun? That's a good question, too. Okay? Stuff like that. It's a beautiful question, I think. Not an easy question, it's a beautiful question. It gets us, down into more of the core of who we are as people. When did your story really start? You don't have to be right. Okay, we're getting there. Oh, we're just flying through this. Okay, so we got, let's start with 12 now, 37:12, and we'll read through 24 with enthusiasm.
Joseph, should I keep going?
If you can be enthusiastic about it.
Joseph is sold by his brothers. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." He answered, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring word back to me." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron. He came to Shechem, and a man found him wandering in the fields. The man asked him, "What are you seeking?" "I am seeking my brothers," he said. "Tell me, please, where are they pasturing the flock?" The man said, "They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from a distance, and before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes that dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we shall say that a wild animal has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his we shall see what will become of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, he delivered him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand and restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the long robe with sleeves that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it.
Thank you. Terrific. Does everyone know this story? Yeah, okay, yeah. It's good story, right? Okay, let's, all right. His father, who's his father again? Jacob, okay. Jacob is going to send this guy, his favorite son, who is a tattletale, on a reconnaissance journey to check on his brothers. Good idea? Way to go, Jacob. This is not going to end well. You don't send a tattletale 17-year-old out to see men, his brothers who are men. This isn't going to end well, right?
It's like when he sent his wives and children ahead
Right, and keep talking.
to pave the way for him because he wanted to use them as a barrier so he would be safe.
There are some real parallels between Jacob's story and this guy, Joseph, his son. Real parallels.
Like
They're,
father, like son.
it's like father, like son, right? And again, one of the overarching questions is, can God do anything with a family like this? You know, there's been, maybe for 170 years or something like that, there's been a real reliance, or a real elevation, let's say, of the Christian family. It's not Lou Dobbs, no, that's another horrible person. Who's out in California, Dr. James Dobson, who does not have a doctorate in theology, by the way. I think he's got an EDD in education. Anyway, I digress. You know, there's focus on the family. You've heard of that, right? Focus on the family. Fabulous. Or what's this men's thing that was really big? It was by University of Michigan football coach. McCarthy started it. What's the name of that? The Million Man March? No, it was more of a program. It was men, how to be a man or something, with muscles or something. I don't know. Anyway, this in America especially, there has been a preoccupation with the family unit and a pairing with the family unit and Christianity. The Bible says hogwash. And I challenge you, you pick any family in the Bible and ask yourself the question, would I want to be a member of that family? I can't think of a single one. Maybe Lydia's household. She seems to be pretty tight and had her head on straight. But, right? I mean, just think about it. Just go through the families that you're aware of in the Bible and ask yourself, would you want to be a member of this family? No. And I don't know why that turned in the United States, because it hasn't been around forever. And it's mostly in the United States where they lionize the Christian family and they make parallels with other families in the Bible. And the parallels don't work. They don't work for me at all. These are dysfunctional families. Seriously dysfunctional.
Why is that?
Why are they dysfunctional?
Why are they all like that?
That's the question, Cindy. I think that's why would that be? That the families are so dysfunctional and God is intimately involved in them.
Right.
Both are true, right? Wouldn't you agree? Both of those things are true. God is in there, and in a very important way, God's story is woven into these families too. It's hard to even separate it out, right? It's hard for me to separate those things out. God works through this person and persons, Adam and Eve, and then Abraham and Sarah, more importantly, and then makes a little family out of that, and then pretty soon they're going to be a tribe, and they're just as dysfunctional as anything. And I guess the question is, offered over and over in New Testament too, is can God work through dysfunction to move God's purposes forward? I mean, look at Joseph and Mary, for God's sake. In Bethlehem, they're not even married. It's a scandal. They're scandalized. Nobody's going to take them in. They could take them in. There was no room at the inn. Baloney. You make room for but they know too much. We're not, no, we can't go there. We can't. You go over by the gay pride parade over here, if you will. That's where you belong. People like you. But yeah, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think the message is that God's grace can work through dysfunction. Now, how it happens is sort of particular to each story, I think. But that's one of the reasons why we were pretty excited to see new patients at Pine Rest, because we were excited about what was going to happen to them. None of us knew what, but we were pretty sure something was going to happen. Because it was, Pine Rest, at least where I work, was kind of a magical place.
Can you throw out there that the dysfunctional so-called Christian family, they're not, the members of the family are not equal, obviously, is a huge teaching moment on both sides for God. So you can use one family, that all these families, dysfunctional, and he can use that example and teach so many lessons about him and how things should be for different types of people and the grace in that story, and almost forcing either a ball and chain to say you can't go over there, or a huge directional, however he chooses to do that. And all of the members are basically forced in a way to learn some lesson that God has to teach.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of, we always saw families as kind of in communities and churches or whatever. Systems, this is systems theory. You can see these things like a mobile. You know, they all interact with each other, and all you have to do is hit one, and everything's going to move. So our theory, I think also the Bible will substantiate this too to a large degree, is if you can have some growth with one person in a system, a business, a country, a church, a family, whatever. If you can have important transformation with one person, it's very likely that everything's going to move. That's when you said that, Cindy. That's what I was thinking. Right? Systems are like a mobile.
They're ever changing.
And you only need one piece of mobile to move, to make it all move. Yeah, so that was our theory at Pine Rest. We're going to go after the one in that family that has the most potential in our minds for transformation, change. Could be mom, dad, the identified patient that comes into onto the unit. It might not even be that person. They've been identified as the patient, but we saw it as the family is the patient, not the individual. I mean, they thought it was, Johnny's an idiot, and that's why he's in chains when he comes in. But it may be this little sister who's the one. So we would appraise that family on that basis. And that worked out pretty well, I would say. We're good at it. And Pine Rest was very good at what it's kind of the Mayo Clinic from the neck up, we used to say it. So, yeah, families would fly in from all over the country to try to get help. Yeah.
Is Pine Rest still functioning?
Very much so, and I was there maybe 5 years ago, and I wondered the same thing, and it's thriving. Yeah, because they're really good at it. Yeah, we helped a lot of people when I was there. I saw 1,000 kids, almost exactly 1,000 kids, 1,000 families. Yeah, in 7 years. So it's a teaching hospital, so they have that going for them too. So you get these crazy wannabes, psychiatrists coming in. I could tell you a lot of stories. Okay, well, it's nearly noon. Why don't we stop there, and then we'll see what happens to old Joseph. And this dreamer, and maybe we'll say a little something about Reuben. He's the only one, right? He's the only one that doesn't want to. He doesn't want to actively kill his brother. The rest of them do. So let's throw him down a well. And then there's a little. I'm going to forget this by next week if I don't say it. If you don't mind. He says, "Shed no blood, cast him into this pit here in the wilderness, but lay no hand upon him, that he might rescue him." I don't think he's talking about his father.
He's not talking about what?
His father. He's talking about a different him.
Oh,
He wants to rescue him for the glory.
That God's going to rescue him.
God's going to rescue him.
God's going to rescue him. That's debated in different what do you call these books? Or critiques, different critiques of this passage. But there are some commentators who would say Reuben's talking about God. God's going to pull him out of there.
Is it a capital H?
Yeah, this isn't capitalized. Mine
I
isn't.
don't think this is not capitalized.
Mine's not either.
do you think that he believed that, or he was being sarcastic?
No, I think I believed it.
He believed it.
That's my prejudice, of the text. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
think Reuben recognized that Joseph was special?
That I don't know, but I think he definitely had an ethic that said we can't do this.
Where about seeing the birth order?
That's a good question. I can't answer that. I don't know. But it's interesting, right? Good old Reuben. Going against his brothers. You know, it says something about his character too, and what made him tick. And again, I want to say, this is a well story. We've talked about that before, right? Just keep reminding yourself, you'll see these after a while, right? A well story will tell you the character of everybody there, including Reuben.
Reuben must have had some sort of upper standing within the family and the brothers, or else they wouldn't have paid attention.
Right, they listened to
He
him.
was the only one.
Right, they listened to him. All right, chuck him down there.
That did what he said.
There's no sploosh, so, you know. Yeah, it's a neat passage, I think, yeah. Okay, we'll see you next week, and we'll try and make some sense of this stuff. Good luck with your next class.
Do you know what we're gonna read next week?
We'll start right after Reuben, yeah. We're gonna, because there will be chock-a-block stories one after the next, as far as the narrative really goes, you know, then this, then this, then this, then this. So, we're heading over to Egypt pretty soon, but that's next.
Is that coming in the fall or next week?
Next week, yeah, next week, and then we're done, you know, and then I'm moving to Italy, as you know. Lake Como. I bought a little villa next to our friends. George and Amal. Very good.